Please.
Councilmember Carnevale? Here. Councilmember Lamb? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory?
Here.
Mayor Ross?
Here. So next we have public comments. Will you please read the statement of participation and then let us know if you've received any comments?
And Mayor, before we do public comments, I just want to make sure we have no changes to the agenda.
There are no changes, Mayor.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the statement of participation. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The Mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. We do have one request to speak, and it's Mr. Alan Carvalho.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Carvalho.
Good afternoon, Council, staff. First of all, thank you for really doing an amazing job on the Tuesday event in the amphitheater. It's really getting a lot of buzz. A lot of people are loving it, so good job, you guys. Thank you. The other thing is the signs that are out here in the lobby. Another great job. I can't just come here and complain. That's not fair. I can, tell you how I feel and tell you how others feel, but it wouldn't be fair for me to just come here and only complain. When a job is being done right, I think it's important for people to acknowledge that, and I really thank you all for doing something that the community appreciates. One of the things that happened a long time ago, which I'm going to encourage you to maybe happen again, we had a presidential candidate in this city once, back in 2015, Big League Dreams. You remember, Mark? I do. Bernie Sanders,
Really?
of all places, came to Cathedral City, which is amazing to get any presidential candidate thinking that, this is a place to be. But we filled the house. I mean, it was full to capacity. And every city council member, no matter of their politics, were in attendance, which is a pretty amazing thing to do. It was about the pride of having a presidential candidate here, less about the politics. But I say, if that can happen then, we can move that type of big bulk mountain. We can do that. And we want to be here to encourage the type of movement the city is moving in the direction that we all embrace. There's always going to be room for improvement. That's true for everybody, whatever your profession. But I do think that if people are going to come here and express their upset, they really need to take the same amount of time to say thank you. So that's pretty much why I came. Thank you very much. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, Madam Mayor, I'd like to say when Bernie was coming, we're all excited, and his campaign manager got out of the car, and we're talking to him, and I said, listen, I want to make a good impression on, Mr. Sanders, how do I look? And he goes, you fix your tie a little bit. It was pretty cute, man, but it was a good day, Alan. It was pretty exciting, yeah. So thank you.
It's nice to be seen.
Yeah.
It is. It is for everybody.
Good day.
We have no closed session items, so our first study session item is city entryway monument size, cost, and location discussed for City Council discussion, recommendations, and direction. Mr. Carella.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Is my tie good?
It looks good.
It's a little off.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, fellow council members, hopefully we're going to make this a entertaining, productive session on city entryway monuments. Just to give you the background on this and for the people watching in the audience, we talked about entry monuments back in September, and I'll highlight that. But entryway monuments are an important element in the city's branding campaign. Identify the boundaries of the city, provide the first messaging of what the city is all about, a recognizable icon. So when you see something, you go to other cities, you know that you're in that city. City currently does not have a standardized entryway program or a monument. An action item in our 5-year strategic plan set on the original 5-year implementation 2 years ago, had community investment was to develop an entryway, median, and lighting master plan, which this essentially will accommodate majority of that. Mayor Ross, at the time Mayor Pro Tem, approached the Public Arts Commission last year and brought up the idea, let's create a standardized monument concept for the city. The mayor created a subcommittee with members of PAC, our liaison, Ann Ambrose, our assistant city manager, formed with Chair Tom Rudolph and Commissioner Craig Liebelt. Out of that whole work, and they did a lot of work, they came up with where we had monuments, where there's opportunity for monuments, and you looked at the whole city with that. And you can see there's a few public art pieces there. Tryon, our Time, Chopsticks, and then we have our mountain cathedrals in the middle there. So we were basically using artwork or sculptures. September 24th, we had a study session on this, and staff presented all those good ideas from the PAC subcommittee report and the recommendation. And we basically looked at and standardized what the monument concept would be. And as you recall, you accepted utilizing the Mountains Cathedral as the standard for a monument. The size was the challenge, because that's the original size is massive, and it can't even fit in a lot of locations if we even tried. So you wanted to know the cost and the fit, meaning the size. Just to let you know, one of the takeaways from that was, can we reproduce the monument? So we actually found the agreement, purchase, and basically a contract. And when we bought the sculpture from Michael Paul Theory in 2005, it included that we own it outright, including all the copyrights and trademarks. So
John, may I
technically-
just add right now that unfortunately Mr. Theory has passed away. I really wish you were here to see this, that he'd be thrilled.
That's a good input, thank you. Yes, because it's going to be a lasting memory. So you asked what size it was, and you wanted to see sense of proportion. So you asked us to see some reduced size replicas. So we provided some mocks, and you've probably seen them when you walk in here, because but our mocks are kind of rudimentary, but they're there to give you a sense of proportion and size. We looked at getting some 3D imprinting copies of it. It was extremely expensive. Just for that size, which is the quarter size, it would have been about $14,000. We weren't going to do it. So staff did a great job in improvising on doing that. So what you have here is you have the quarter scale. And what the dimension you're seeing on the screen is without the base. So above the base, you're looking at a 3 foot tall, 1 foot wide, 3.5 deep with all the fins, which I'll call fins, the mountains, the cathedral mountains, the mountain cathedrals on there. That's the quarter size. That's the 50% size, which is pretty big unto itself. Then you get the 3/4 size, which we put in colors just to get a sense of proportion on it, so you can see it's massive too. So it may not be what we're looking for. So when it all came down to it, I've highlighted a third size, because what I did was staff and I went out to different signs and kind of looked at other cities and what's noticeable. And I've always noticed the Palm Springs size, that sign on, this one's on Dinah Shore. They have it at a few places that actually gives you the message of where you're at. It looked fairly reasonable in cost. And it was a size that you could almost put anywhere, even within the city, if you didn't want to just put it at entry monuments. So there you have the front view, side view. That's 5 foot tall. So when I got up next to it here, it doesn't have a base. This is Rancho Mirage's sign, which is kind of the old style, big chunk of concrete with some fluff around it. And you can see, I wasn't going to put myself in the picture, but you can see the sense of size in that one. That's 8 feet tall, very little base, 8 foot wide, and 4 feet thick. Then you get to this entryway monument, which is coming in right past Cathedral Canyon off Dinah Shore. That base is 2.5 feet tall. 5 foot wide, 5 foot deep. Just the sculpture itself is, with the base, is about 20 feet. So it's about 17 feet high. It's significant. So, and one thing I want to point out on the base is that lettering is approximately plus or minus 12 inches. Because it's in handwriting script, it's going to be taller and it varies. But if we did it in block letters, pretty much kind of agreed that maybe a 1 foot or 8 inch size of letters would be able to be seen by a car driving by it.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
My understanding was we were considering a sign that said, "Welcome to Cathedral City," and not have that's what we talked about at our last meeting, and not have the written out name of the city, but instead an entry to our city, welcome.
Point taken, and you'll see it in here. I will talk about that.
Okay. And also, before I lose you, this base is a really good size. The piece doesn't have to be that tall, but that's a pretty good size base. That's nice.
It is a good size base.
It's nice.
It's not, to say welcome Cathedral City, you'd have to stack it.
Yep.
So that pretty much works. That could work for that, but hold that thought.
I'm holding.
So, and then one that kind of everyone misses, and it's kind of a good point that I brought this up at, this sign's off to the side. Most people don't remember or even remember it's there. I didn't even remember it was there. I've seen it, doesn't imprint. Sean Maddox, or he goes, "Dee, you wanted to see the one on Vista Chino? You don't have it listed." And I said, "Is there one?" And he told me about it. And I guess, "Oh yeah, I do remember it." So I think the focus is to have those signs in the medians, because that's what most cities are doing anyway. So the full-size monument, once again, is 12 feet tall. That's kind of ruled out because even the monument or the sculpture where it is today, it's a little challenge being in there. It fits in real tight in the median. So the one thing I came up with when we're all going through all these, we don't have a mock for it, was maybe the right size is something between that and that. But once again, meeting the half size and that size. And once again, you can always make the base as high and as low as you want. Basically, if you're wanting to accommodate lettering, you're going to probably have to have about 3 feet, but you can always make it high and low. You do want your base to have some sense of proportion on it so you don't lose the sculpture within the base or the monument. So what are the costs? So right now, these were preliminary ask of various people. And obviously, if a fabricator did one, I'm sure prices get lower because he'll already have the templates and they're probably going to use a CNC machine to do it all automatically anyway. So once they get this all programmed and done, they'll have the program down and prices could come down. So 25% is about between $60,000 and $77,000 on the 3 estimates we got. We estimated the 33% to be about $61,000 to $97,000. Then you got your half scale. You can see the prices there. You get to the
Is that gray
full.
one the half scale? That gray one out there?
Pardon me?
Is that gray one out there, is that the half scale?
Yes, the one that you're just peeking in the door of.
Yeah, that's all gray.
Yes, the colored one is
3/4.
is the 3/4. So you can imagine what the 100%, we couldn't even fit the 100% in here, so. And the base, I excluded these costs in the base because that is something that we can contract for. The base cost probably between about $5,000 and $14,000, kind of give that range. But once again, it's going to depend on the location. Welcome to Cathedral City, or Cathedral City in letters plus or minus 1 foot tall. So I made that mention because obviously if the base is too small or something, we may want to opt for something different or smaller lettering like that. And then we got to remember in all the cost for these, there may be an existing sculpture that's relocated and or an existing monument. So I've identified basically all 11 entryway locations from outside the city. So East Palm Canyon has two, east and west. The east entry basically doesn't have, it used to have the swoop, it got hit by a car, we didn't replace it. That's an available spot. Also on the west side, we're actually in our MUP project, which is the undergrounding, which will have street widening, which is an ancillary project in the CIP program. We're also looking at the traffic signal there. That's under design right now. We actually asked them to include a median in that area, not only to be able to guide traffic, but to provide an area that would allow for an entryway monument. While you're doing work in an area like that, medians are cost effective to put in instead of just doing it, randomly on a one-off. So we looked at all that. Gerald Ford, west of Plumley, we would have to construct some sort of median structure there. Dinah Shore, on the west side, west of Shifting Sands, Palm Springs, there's artwork already occupying it. You saw this other art piece here. And then on the east entry off Plumley, we do have a Cathedral City on a sculpture on the Time Monument, but it's so way in. You're already way into Cathedral City. There's opportunities to move that up front more, or keep that one there and add another one there. It's not top, it's TikTok, sorry. Ramon Road, west entry, that site's available. That site technically is kind of been in question for the Public Arts Commission to do something of Native American heritage. That's always been the goal there, but it could have an entryway monument. That technically probably can't get done until the the Ramon Road Bridge widening project's done, because they are modifying that whole median there at Landau. On the east side, that's occupied by both the Swoop and TikTok, Chopsticks artwork.
I had a question about the Ramon Road. Is that going to be a bridge up high, like a regular bridge?
The Ramon Road Bridge is a widening project.
It's only widening.
Yeah, it's only widening, because that's already a bridge platform.
Okay.
It's Vistachino that'll end up being a bridge that's taking the low water crossing. So you have Ramon Road, Vistachino. We have that entry where the old monument side's on the side of the road. We're going to work with Palm Springs to make sure we get some sort of median structure in there that has the potential to have a monument on it. And then Varner Road, we have east, north, we have west, east, and north, and I'll show you this graphically at these locations. So like I talked about East Palm Canyon, you see you have both the east and west. Gerald Ford, just past Plumley, because basically from Duval we're split. Dinah Shore, same thing, right around that Plumley area to Dinah Shore, because we're split in that Duval area, from Duval to Plumley. Then Ramon Road from Duval to Landau, and then on Vistachino on the west end there. And then just so you know, Palm Drive, Mountain View Drive, and Bob Hope all have opportunities. The one thing this reminded me to do is we're doing this design, this fabulous design for Varner Road in conjunction with CVAG, this $3.2 million road widening. I was going to remind staff to make sure that we have something in there to be able to put an entry monument somewhere in the middle of the roadway at
Only if
these
they get
entryway
lighting. It's
points.
mighty dark out there.
So,
So while you have that map up, let me ask. So the existing monument that we're looking at modeling from is on Date Palm, just south of I-10.
correct.
So would it not a good 12th location be on Date Palm north of I-10 to have a future monument there? So when people come off the freeway and they turn north, they realize that that's also Cathedral City?
Great suggestion. As
Okay.
I state, and one of the things is, if you have a monument that's nimble enough, smaller size like Palm Springs is, you could put them anywhere, just to keep reminding people,
Well,
look what
that
city
one
you're
might
in,
warrant
so.
something of even one of the larger sizes there. I mean, there's nothing there now. A nice big wide road, I don't think there's a median right there immediately. located.
There are medians there, and
So-
they're substantial.
So something, as I'm saying, something doesn't necessarily have to be 100% like the one, they don't have to mirror the one on the other side, but something large might fit there because of the scale of the road and right now, the big open space. So when I saw this, and I mentioned to the city management when I met with them that I really thought we should add that as a potential future spot for a monument to.
We'll note that and include that in this. So with that said,
Good
on
idea.
the larger monument, we come to the funding discussion. So currently, there's no budget allocated for any of the monument installations. So we are doing the budget right now, the biennial budget. There's opportunity there, if so, if it's the council's wish to do that. We also have suggestions that there's incremental installations over several years. I mean, we can easily spend $2 million here if we want to do all of it at one time, and some big, some small. That's big to bite off. We can take this in steps. Funding sources, budgeted general funds, obviously, council district funds, that would be welcome. CIP project that will be improving the roadway within the gateway area, so there may be an opportunity with the MUP project to incorporate that monument in there. Art and other grant funding, and/or a combination of all the above. So with that, I'll keep my slideshow up here in case you want to go back to anything, but I'm leaving
Can
it
we
back
go
to you,
just
Mayor.
wander around for a few minutes and look at them?
It's your meeting.
I know, I was just trying to be polite, John. Do you want to? Oh, we're just going to be right there. You think we need a recess for that? Okay, we're recessing for 5 minutes. at 3:26.
I might remind on the cost that all those costs were based on the brushed stainless steel we're looking at. We're also pursuing aluminum, which, as we have seen in our front plaza here, that aluminum's pretty durable and it's pretty heavy. So I think that might do the trick too in reducing.
And we had
some
that
of the
conversation at
costs.
our first meeting, and you were a kind of fan of aluminum. I mean, steel's better. Aluminum's great.
It's easier to fabricate, I know that.
It's cheaper to make. Okay, so do we have any questions for John yet? Go ahead.
I'm kind of confused on the Plumley, Dinah Shore, Gerald Ford. Are you talking about just putting a Wayfair sign there rather than a full monument sign? Because like you said, you're already kind of deep into Cathedral City when you turn right onto Plumley off of Gerald Ford, or if you're going west. So we wouldn't need to put a monument sign at that stop sign, would we?
We would be, let me get to that spot here.
And I guess that goes for the entryway on Dinah Shore as well.
We have a piece on Dinah Shore.
So right there, there's no median. Something would have to be created. That was the proposal at the time. It was just, it's out there. Once again, these decisions are your decisions.
Yeah, and like you said, that split Rancho Mirage and Cathedral City on Plumley. So I don't know if that's necessary addressing it.
Well, here's the challenge, and I'll just give you an observation since I was next to the sign. So we're looking at Dinah Shore. You get to, before you get to Plumley, Rancho Mirage already has their sign there. But sooner or later, that north side will be developed. That's the Lot T property. That's in Cathedral City.
Okay.
Then it's going to give, most cities wait till you're fully in the city to do the monument sign versus if you have the split. So that's up to the city council.
Okay. And then I think my other question would be, hope council takes into consideration vandalism or a vehicle running into these, destroying them. Because I would assume most automobile insurance is about $25,000 property damage is all they cover. And they're going to get in, they're going to hit something. They hit telephone poles, they hit fire hydrants and stuff. So I don't know if a larger block would be better to have, so it wouldn't destroy the art or the work. So I just hope we take that into consideration. The bigger, the more expensive, it's more cost to replace and upkeep. So. And then can we just do like a sandwich board? I mean, it's really inexpensive. We can change it now and then, Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes, I just have a couple more comments than questions. Now, I believe I heard Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Gregory mention that different sizes for different entries might be the perfect, you can say, sculpture to put on there. But definitely the full size, I think the special one we already have, which is on Dapom. Smaller ones, it's a huge possibility between, I say, probably 1/3 to 1/2 would be the perfect size, and particular entrances. Not every entrance is going to be able to accommodate the same sculpture. Now, when you talk to vandalism as well, or about vandalism, it's not just vehicles, depending where you put them. If you do this in the north side of our city, on Barner or on Palm Drive, or even on Bob Hope, there's people that just love to vandalize things and to steal things for many different reasons. So we have to consider that as well. Sand damage too on Dapom as well. Now, one of the biggest things is how we're going to pay for this. I like the idea. There's no way that we can do this all at once. We can do this maybe one every year or every other year if we budget for it. as talking to our city manager, we're talking about the budget, and it seems like we're going to be a little bit tight the following year, or maybe 2 years possibly. So we have to definitely try to find a source of funding for this. But I think it's a beautiful idea to do a couple of them. I don't know about every single entry, but some of the major ones, identify the major ones, and go from there. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Ross. I called you Councilmember Ross. Where am I? Councilmember Lynn. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I just think it's a great idea, and the continuity and the uniformity and the welcome to Cathedral City, that's what we want to do, so it's wonderful. But I think having a triaged approach and having, within the first 3 years and the next 3 years and the next 3 years, what we can actually do financially, so thank you for bringing that up.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So I concur, and as was already shared, it would seem to me it would make sense to try to match the size with what's going on in that intersection. I like the little one. It's cute, though. It might get stolen and end up in my living room or something on a little pedestal. But there are some locations where that would be appropriate. As has been mentioned, probably I would think most of them, but the third or the half might be appropriate, because you wanted to make a statement. We don't want to go to all this trouble and have them so small that, as you say, they're not really noticed. But there may be some places that are for that. But it's been mentioned the possible use of some of the art in public place. What are the requirements, and how would that roll into something like this? The original was art, but if we duplicate it, does that still fall in the criteria of art in public places?
That would be a little bit of a challenge, because typically we have used the Art in Public Places Fund to purchase original works. Now, there's been at least one exception. The police officer with the little boy one out there is it was out of a catalog, a reproduction, I guess you could say. So, ultimately, probably you have the flexibility to do what you want. But in most cases, the Art in Public Places Fund has been used to purchase original works, which we already did, of course, out of the Art Fund.
Isn't the term original a little bit?
Even that,
because I'm thinking of the one that was put in Panorama Park, the first one. That one you could order in different finishes and different sizes, but it was from the original artist, and then they would manufacture it to those specifications. So although it was original, they were manufactured under the artist's guidance, so.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, I think all of that is true, and which means I think that ultimately the council has some flexibility on that. What I would suggest from a policy standpoint is if you select, and it can be both, the 1/3 and the 1/2 as your standard, depending on the location, then we can start taking steps to program these into things we know we have coming. Like the undergrounding project on East Palm Canyon, we can program it into that. The Ramon Road Bridge project that's going to rebuild the intersection of Landau and Ramon, we can build it into that. The Vista Chino Bridge project at the border there, we can build it into that project. And then we can, as we adopt budgets, not only this year but moving forward, we can add 1 or 2 each year in there.
Are we going to do a 5-year entryway improvement?
Yeah, we could do a 5-year entryway plan, just like the CIP. What I would say, your very first one, what is going to be the simplest and most cost-effective, because there's only one location where you don't have to move anything else, and that is in front of Palm Springs Ford coming in from Rancho Mirage on East Palm Canyon. There's no existing piece there, and there's no existing monument there. So that one is going to be...
What is the size of that median?
That one would accommodate either your third or your
what the size is?
half.
Third optimum, I think, we can measure for the half.
Okay,
So we can come back with that. Go ahead, Drew.
yeah.
So your 3/4 model out there is tinted. Is tinting the actual monument a possibility?
No, we'd shown different colors just for looking at color and texture, because the bigger they get, you start losing it, kind of like what you're looking at in the half scale. So we actually printed that just for effect.
All right, well, I'm asking because I know some other artwork pieces, and this is where I was getting into, could it be a piece of art because maybe the Arts Commission would be involved in, well, first of all, I would recommend that they be involved at least in approving or making a recommendation as to size. So some of that's going to be dictated by the size of the median. But I really think it takes somebody with a good eye also, and I know you have a good eye, but it's good to have several eyes on it, artistic eyes that will look at it and say, yes, that fits appropriately in that space, or no, that's really overwhelming for that space, or underwhelming, it's really too small. It's not really going to have the kind of statement. So I suggest as we go along that we do, whether they come out of arts funding or not, that we include the Public Arts Commission to at least kind of say, hey, we like that idea.
That can easily be done. That's actually a good suggestion.
Well, and that's why I was wondering if tinting was involved, because then I thought, well, maybe they can also make recommendations for that. So while you're doing your checking, because I know, like I said, the piece that was in Panorama, it could have come in several different finishes. So I don't know if that's a possibility.
Well, and I think I'd defer to the mayor on that, because I know that I think the commissioners had talked about that as a concept of either having each piece have either a different, texture or different colors, depending on that. And it seemed that the recommendation was to go with the silver, if I'm recalling correctly, rather than, having that varied.
We talked about doing the swirlies, how you put the thing on and make them all swirly, and decided they look like bathroom doors. And, there were just some things, but we looked at them. I'm sure there are some people who would love it to be hot pink. I like gray.
Well, it would need to come to the council before it would get approved anyway. So, but the reason I'm asking for that is if you're going to use art funds, I'm just going to throw it out as a possibility that if they have some type of a artistic turn to them, although the basic structure is the same, that maybe that would make more sense that they would be, or at least partially funded by art funds or that type of thing. So I don't think we should totally dismiss that and say, no, we've decided they all have to be exactly the same brush steel. But at least that's my feeling, that we should at least entertain other ideas. So, all right. And then as far as, again, suggesting that we add that location north of Date Palm, and again, something of appropriate size there, because we were talking about smaller ones, but when we get to that point, that might be a place where a larger one is appropriate. So, all right.
Great, thank you. I just have a couple of questions. Our insurance would cover damage hit by cars and things like that, wouldn't it?
Well, typically, yes,
Okay.
if it's over our deductible.
Yeah,
Right.
just remember, we have a pretty large self-insured retention,
What-
so basically it's the insurance fund.
What's our deductible?
Well, in most cases, it's $250,000. Now, I don't know if you could get a
That's not good. A little rider, a rider?
special
is not
rider
bad.
to cover artwork. We'll have to
Right.
have Kevin look into that.
I'm sure the city pursues the driver of the vehicle, because I don't think it's very often that the artwork jumps out in front of the car.
Case like that, we can also often get third-party subrogation from the driver's carrier.
Hopefully. And then I know you showed it, and I'm not going to ask you to back up. Can you just tell me, as close to off your head as you can, the silver one, what is the height, width on that, total, counting the base?
I am going to go back in the
All right, okay.
presentation.
If you do that, I'll just be able to figure it out. So that's the one
There we
half,
go.
right?
So the 1/2,
6
just
foot.
without the base, 6 foot tall, 2 foot wide, and 6.5 feet deep. That's counting all basically the fins or the cathedrals that you see in there.
That's how tall they are?
That's how deep it is. That's how long it is.
Okay. So there's height, width, and,
Height, width. So what you're seeing right there, you're seeing the height and you're seeing the width.
yeah, but the width
Going
is
that
the
way
same
is the
both
depth.
ways, right? It's basically square. I know it's
It's really rectangular.
chiseled. It's really more rectangle. Okay. All right. And then my other question was, what did you estimate the cost of this one would be? And I know it's just an estimation.
So which size, Mayor, again, please?
That would be the 1/2 size.
Oh,
Isn't
the
that what
1/2 was
Isn't that what the
between-
gray is, the 1/2?
74,000 to 148,000. The estimates varied, but once again, we gave them specifics on size, but I had a feeling they knew it wasn't hard estimates that they're bidding on. We just wanted some basically conservative proposals on what it would take to do this, so.
But it wouldn't be too far off of
When
that.
we-
Maybe
I think we're
10%
good.
one way or the
Well,
other.
between that gap, I think we can do it.
Okay, all
Without the
right.
base. Remember, the base is extra.
Base is extra.
Base is
4 to
manageable, though.
14,000 or something like that, right? 5 to 14,000.
Yeah, I don't see it being that much, though.
Thank you. Anybody want to bring it home?
At moving forward and that you'll work with the city manager and then and/or the Arts Commission as appropriate to see what kind of rollout plan could be, because we're constructing a budget now, so we don't want to drop it and then have to bring it up in 2 years fresh, you know? It's-
Yeah, and when we get a proposal for an installation of a specific piece at a specific location, then that'll come for your authorization there as well. But while we're building the budget, it's a good idea to put one in each year or something like that. And then there was a number of other funding sources that were listed in that, and we'll explore those as those opportunities arise to supplement whatever we do from a budget standpoint.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I just got one more wild idea, wild
Okay,
kooky. It's
bring it on,
crazy.
Madman.
It's crazy when you mentioned one right in front of Palm Springs Ford. Would it be too much to ask, ask Palm Springs Ford if they wanted to purchase this for the city, as long as they got notoriety, their name on it? Or has this got to be something just cathedral cities? You're making a face at me, man.
I think
Mr.
you
Mayor.
could ask, but they usually are asking us for
Well, the Auto Center, yeah, I know, it's a big hit, but it doesn't hurt to ask. But I would just wonder if we could incorporate their, like they're putting it in, they're involved in the city, and they're getting some pretty good advertisement out of it.
Where
It's
would
kind of
this
wild.
advertisement be? It
Right
wouldn't-
right underneath Cathedral City.
Where it says,
Where it
"Welcome
says
to
home
Cathedral
of
City."
Palm Springs Motors. Forget the idea. I'm a thinker, all right.
Well-
I just threw it out there. I told you it was
No,
my.
I-
My only caution on something like that is that basically when you put a business's name on it, it turns into off-site advertising. And our sign code addresses that. And in general, off-site advertising is not allowed in the city. There's probably a way you could amend the code to do something like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I was
But,
just thinking. but-
yeah.
I mean, what do you got, the Auto Center, we put that big old screen up there. You thought maybe they would kick back a little bit. but-
Pictures and things.
All right, continue, Madam Mayor. I mean,
My last comment is 5-year plans are really good. They really help staff because we get program in the future. So that was a great suggestion. Thank you.
We're all for it. No, I shouldn't say I'm all for it. Thank you so very much. And next,
Your next 5-year plan.
our next 5-year plan is coming right now. So as you're talking, yeah. So, I'm sorry. Mr. Carvalho, I'm sorry, Ann, we do have a public comment.
Thank you. First of all, Mayor, thank you for bringing this forward, for making this a really important aspect. It's a real welcoming to the city. It's our branding. So I had a couple of notes that I'd like to share. The concrete base could possibly be donated. I don't know the rules, but not the sculpture, but the actual base could be maybe crowdfunding. It could be plaqued with people's names. You can't see it from the road. You'd have to go up to it. But these are just options that even Mark was mentioning about finding other sources of funding. I know that people would like to see this move forward because they take pride in our city. The size of the base could be larger with a smaller sculpture to save money, might be another option. I agree with Raymond about a large scale off the 10 on Date Palm. The idea of a budget, to me, installing all the sculptures at once would be perfect. It's like what was done when we did the street signs of entering the city. It was all done at once. I understand budget's a concern. And also grant money, and you're concerned about the Public Arts Commission. There's a rule there that you all can change. You can't use, when I was on commission, it was clear that you can't use punched out art. You can't use art that has been duplicated. It has to be original. But you have the power to change that rule, even if it's just for this experience, this particular. So remember that you do have that power to change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Now up.
Good afternoon, Mayor,
Good
Mayor Pro
afternoon.
Tem, and council members. So continuing the discussion about five-year plans, tonight I'd like to bring before you sort of the outcome of the council strategic plan discussion earlier this year and the changes made to our planning document. So just a little bit of history. Our current five-year strategic plan was adopted on April 12th of 2023. And this has been our guiding document for staff's understanding of City Council's priorities, and it helps set our department action plans and also guides our budgeting. The plan is driven by the city's adopted values, vision, and mission statements. And periodically, staff have been back to the City Council to present updates on the plan. And in 2024, after a work session with the council, there was a revisions made and the plan readopted. And I'm not going to go through this, but just as we can see, our goals and our objectives and what we do to achieve these are all guided by our values, our vision and mission of moving Cathedral forward with commitment, pride, and excellence. And through those discussions, our strategic plan is guided by 5 goals of Goal A, serving the community with pride and dedication. Goal B, community investment. Goal C, fiscal stability and sustainability. Goal D, innovation. Goal E, safety. And Goal F, creating an embracive, inclusive community. So on January 25th of this year, council and staff participated in a strategic planning workshop in advance of the preparation of this upcoming 25-26 and 26-27 budget. Together, we reviewed departmental accomplishments and received input from the City Council on new priorities for the upcoming budget. And in that process, City Council identified a series of initiatives which have been incorporated into the revised plan. And so I'm just going to go through those items that have been added within the particular goal section. So under Goal A, serving the community with pride and dedication, we had scheduled once a year a joint meeting with our commissions and committees, perhaps using the off Wednesdays. And then ongoing developing a summer council schedule with the objective of 1 meeting per month in June, July, and August. And we've already accomplished that goal so far for this year. Under Goal B was the continuing to work on a septic to sewer grant and making sure that the Sarah area is included and other economic development efforts. Completing the design and seeking funding to construct the downtown dog park and pickleball courts. Supporting Sunline's efforts to develop an improved transit hub in downtown Cathedral City. And supporting a PACE health provider locating in Cathedral City. Continuing with Goal B was conducting site and cost analysis for our community recreation center. That RFP is going to be launching April 1st to do that analysis. Completing planned flood control infrastructure projects, especially as part of our street improvement projects. And then being vigilant in efforts to keep regional CVWD or Riverside County Flood Control District projects moving forward. Under Goal C for fiscal sustainability was the initiative to develop an inventory of contract services that are due for bid and requesting proposals. We know that we've had some vendors that have the city's done business with for a long time, and it's always opportune to occasionally go out and rebid those services to making sure that we're still getting the best value for the city. We are looking at exploring and soliciting public feedback on a potential charter amendment, which could include looking at council salaries, term limits, or other considerations. And continue to work on methods and programs to promote economic development north of I-10.
Can you just give us a minute on what that is? What are we doing to promote economic development, or more importantly, make it ready for economic development?
We are working with developers that are considering projects up there. The one project that we've talked to the council about before, Project Podium, while we heard or thought we had heard recently that we were out of contention, Andy Firestein and I had a conversation today, after he'd spoken to the developer. And actually, we're still in the running a little bit. So there's still discussions going on, and we're not out of the woods yet. So those are some of the activities that staff are continuing to do related to the I-10.
Do you see a reasonable amount of interest in that property? It comes with some problems with it,
Yeah.
not having sewage and water and
And that's the biggest
electricity and-
impediment right now, of finding development that's sufficient enough that can help bridge some of those initial costs.
It can go from Flintstone to today, right?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
So that continues, but staff are continuing to be open to that and looking to, if someone comes forward with a project, really trying to help support those efforts. Under our goal of safety, researching the ability to regulate the use of pedestrian sidewalks by e-bikes or other motorized vehicles. As e-bikes become more prevalent, it's important to look at making sure those are operating safely within our community and around pedestrians. We have the goal of scheduling community meetings with police in our mobile home gated communities to also include a public health professional. Reviewing our animal control contract and options. That was something I know at the last meeting when we were talking about crime stats was part of the discussion with the police chief of looking at that. Renewing and improving our event safety planning, protocols and standards, looking at our streets, garage, amphitheaters, parks and others for target hardening. It's an unfortunate thing that we have to have those conversations about how we improve safety, but that was certainly very top of mind in our events this season, and a lot of these strategies were implemented through the course of this year in our own events. And that will be an ongoing discussion with community events and police. And then the fire department contacting mobile home parks to reinforce state water accessibility requirements. I know the chief was just out recently at one of the mobile homes that had experienced a fire, and continuing to look at and make sure that the mobile home parks are in compliance with the requirements of the state for water accessibility. Under Goal F, an embracing inclusive community, we had exploring options for shielding trash containers, especially where backyards may not be accessible. And this is primarily related to residential homes and sort of discussions that we've had about when homes don't have a good place to put trash cans, are there acceptable ways to shield them so that it isn't such a visual blight in the neighborhoods? Reviewing and updating as needed our ordinance policies and practices regarding cannabis. Obviously, we're well underway with that as we are currently under the moratorium for new cannabis businesses, and staff will be back to council in April with an update on what they've been doing related to that. Reviewing processes and economic development efforts to promote childcare accessibility in Cathedral City. Focusing on the economic development roadmap and identified pillars of success. This was a document included and presented to council during our strategic planning session, and something that Eric and Victor are working on to help guide our efforts in helping attract and maintain our businesses that are here. And then continuing to explore grants to businesses for facade improvements using either council improvement funds or other funding sources. Continuing under this goal, working with community partners and providers on a community health fair to help residents identify resources that are available. There are a lot of these sort of efforts going on in the community. The Senior Center, I think, is, if they haven't done one, they have one coming up, and others, and maybe work to identify a way that we can amp that up for all of the participating agencies. Exploring an ordinance to prohibit on-street parking on street sweeping days. Study ways to address bulky items placed out too soon. Evaluating staffing and code compliance versus workload to determine the needed full-time staff for the workload, and then also looking at technologies available. There is a proposal within the budget that you'll hear Andy talk about use of a technology tool to help increase efficiencies with code enforcement. And then developing methods to improve the quality and appearance of our community mailers. The fiscal impact for these items, to the extent possible, goals and objectives are being addressed within department budgets or will be planned in the upcoming budget that you'll be adopting soon. And this aligns with our existing strategic plan goal of implementing the strategic plan by ensuring department work programs include initiatives which achieve the strategic plan actions, and regularly review progress and accomplishment at our city manager department head meetings and with the council throughout the year. One of the things that you will notice in your packet, we've made some just changes to the look of the strategic plan. Part of it was really difficult for staff to update because we did some things originally that just made it hard for the departments not to mess it up when we were going in to add it, and Christine was having to do a lot of extra work on it. So we've cleaned that out a little bit. We've moved anything that had been accomplished to the end, and then right now you're kind of seeing it start fresh. You won't see any task items beneath each of the actions, but as staff update that and as we come back to council with updates, you'll see that filled in with where staff are at in working towards these objectives. And that is it. If council, this item is for review only and discussion, but we do have it on the agenda later this evening under the consent calendar. So if there are no changes, then it is on for adoption and will be the revised strategic plan for the city.
Thank you. Do we have comments from council members or Mayor Pro Tem?
Not
No
really.
comments.
It looked good to me. I mean, we discussed you could wordsmith this or that, but I think the general idea is there from the studies or from our workshop.
Yep.
Quick, it's sick now. We've all agreed. Quick. Before somebody changes their mind. No, I think we're all good.
There was such a, interesting and made a big deal with Jens Mueller on the trash containers. Has there been anything more done with that other than sending out flyers and recommendations? Has code compliance been monitoring that, or?
I think it's, as they've done before, they really, I think, in that neighborhood, they did more directed patrols, they did the noticing and things like that. It's one of those areas that they still take on a case-by-case basis, and as complaints come in, they will give the proactive noticing. They'll still tag the cans with their stickers to try to get volunteer compliance on it.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilman, and it came up at the goal-setting session in January. One of the reasons for one of the action items that you saw there, which had to do with developing plans and alternatives where people could build structures to help shield trash cans in cases where they can't put them in the backyard. And so that's one of the things that we'll be working on the upcoming year. And that alone may solve some of the problems that he was bringing to your attention. Mm-hmm.
This isn't directly to what you're saying, Charlie, but I'm wondering if someplace like a Home Depot or, what's the other one? Lowe's wouldn't already have an L-shaped something, that you can attach to your house, and it has a blockade in the front, and you could just put your garbage cans behind that. I think I've even seen something like that. It would certainly make it easy. Not if you had 14 garbage cans, it wouldn't, but if you had 2, or maybe even 3, depending on their sizes. And it's just about a 4-foot high shield, so it'd be just about right.
But the homes I see, they do have side yards with gates. It's just a lot easier leaving it on the outside instead of opening the gate, taking them through. It's kind of a,
And really, we just don't want to see it.
yeah.
I
got it.
don't think we're fussier than that. Thank you. Okay, John, you're smirking like we're totally more fussy than that, huh? Yeah, you were. Glasses back on. I got excited and went ahead in my thing here. So that was it. And so here we find ourselves. We're looking at the approval of the amended 5-year strategic plan. No, we aren't. Well, I'm at the whole wrong thing. Wait a minute. This is my study session. Here we go. So we're reviewing amendments made to the 5-year strategic plan at the January 25th, 2025 City Council Strategic Plan Workshop. And Mr. City Manager, I'm sorry I didn't call on you for a report. But
That was it. It is on your agenda for actual acceptance tonight, and the purpose for this discussion was to make sure that we got your action items correct from the January 25th session, and it sounds like you believe that occurred. So in that case, it's ready for adoption tonight on the regular agenda.
Thank you so much. We are going to recess until our 5:30 meeting.
And
The fire department and police department have some kind of a meatball competition going on, starting Minutes ago at the.
There is at 4 o'clock, I believe, at the Roost Lounge, 4 to 6. So if you want to run over there and see how things are going or cheer on your favorites, just be back by 5:30 for the
And Mayor
regular
Ross,
meeting.
Mayor Ross, before you adjourn, there are no public comments on this item. I just wanted to announce that.
Thank you. You did have public comments?
We have none.
Okay. No, I am. Myself definition of carnivore